Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. To sustain the last objection, Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
Ma'am, we were talking about the car rental in Redding, California, and you ultimately were given a second car, correct?
Yes.
And the color of this car was white, correct?
Yes.
And that was more to your liking because of this issue involving the traffic citations, correct?
Yes.
And this car had a capacity of over 12 gallons per tank full, correct?
It was 10 or 12. I don't remember.
Well, okay. Do you remember, this is Exhibit 237.018. Do you remember filling up with gas in Winnemucca, Nevada?
I remember running out of gas in Nevada, and...
When you say that you ran out of gas, there was absolutely no gas in your car, or you were just running low?
It was... the gas light was on, so...
When you say that the gas light was on, doesn't mean that you're not moving. It means that you are low on gasoline, correct?
Yeah, it was kind of below.
Are you saying that that's where it happened in Winnemucca, Nevada?
No, I was probably, I think he said I was 15 or 20 miles from there.
And you were able to make it to Winnemucca, correct?
No, I pulled over.
And you pulled over and did what?
I went in and asked the guy where the nearest gas station is. He said it's about 15 miles. I think he said 15 miles further. I didn't think I would make it on E, so I went and started putting gas in the car, and he came out and assisted me.
And you were putting gas from what?
From one of the gas cans.
All right. And let's just take a look at this exhibit right here. And it indicates that it's your name, right?
Yes.
It's from Winnemucca, right?
Yes.
And it indicates that the amount that you purchased was 12.175 gallons, right?
Yes.
And you paid $49.91, correct?
That's right.
And this issue involving you running out of gas, that's not something that you told us on direct examination, correct? Yes,
No, I was not.
And so you have this car that has at least a capacity of 12 gallons, correct?
Foundation.
Approach.
Now, with regard to Winnemucca, you filled up your car with gas, didn't you?
Yes, I put gas in it.
All the way till it was full, right?
I probably, because I usually filled up until the
Yes or
nozzle
no?
clicked.
Yes or no? In Winnemucca, did you fill it up with gas?
I put gas in it. I probably filled it up.
So you're saying that you're not sure if you filled it up all the way with gas then, right?
That's right.
But you did make a purchase in Winnemucca pursuant to Exhibit 237.018 in which 12.175 gallons were purchased by you, right?
Yes.
And so it could be that the tank was 15 gallons of gas, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
Right?
That's possible.
But at least we know that this gas tank could hold at least 12.175 gallons of gas, right?
Right.
And before you went on this trip, it started on June 2nd of 2008, correct?
Yes.
Started around 5 o'clock in the morning, correct?
It was early in the morning, around that time.
Because you were at Redding at 8 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Well, we saw the receipts. Were you here when the receipts were shown of you renting the car at approximately 8:01?
Yes, I was here.
And so if it takes you 1 to 2 hours to drive down there, that would mean you would have to get up pretty early, right?
Yes.
And so you got up pretty early, you drove down to Redding, but in anticipation of that, you actually called somebody by the name of Daryl Brewer, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't get up early. I was up all night. So.
Pardon?
You said I got up early. I just wanted to make that clear. I was up all night. So
Okay, so what you're saying is you didn't sleep that night,
I
right?
didn't sleep that night. No.
Okay. So, but you did, in anticipation of this trip, contact an old boyfriend, right?
Yes.
And that would be Daryl Brewer, right?
Yes.
You made a number of telephone calls to him, correct?
Probably.
And when you say probably, it means that you're not sure, right?
I'm not sure. No.
So you at least made 2 calls to him, though, right?
If that's what my phone records reflect, then that would be right.
Now, I'm asking what your memory reflects.
I don't remember actually calling him before leaving on my trip.
So you have no idea as to whether or not you even called them before you went on the trip, then, right?
I don't recall. Well, of course I called him before the trip, but I don't know how soon before the trip.
So you don't remember whether or not it was in May, then? Is that what you're saying?
I did talk to him in May.
And it was toward the end of May, correct?
Probably.
And when you keep saying probably, it means that you're not sure, but that you do not deny that you made a call, right?
That's right.
And so you made this call to him at the end of May, and you asked him whether or not he had any spare gas cans for you to use, right?
That sounds right.
No, I'm not asking what sounds right. Is that what you did?
I think I did, because he's the one I ended up borrowing them from.
Well, ma'am, are you having trouble again with your memory with regard to events then?
Yeah, because there were a few different,
So the answer is yes. You are having trouble with your memory.
with that question.
Well, are you having trouble? It's not the only question that you've had trouble with. Are you having trouble with the memory of the events leading up to your trip?
Leading up to, yeah, I probably,
Okay.
a little bit.
And you would agree then that the events leading up to your trip were probably the end of May, and the murder was, or the killing was on June 4th of 2008. So are you saying that that whole period you're having problems with your memory? Or is it just the end of May?
Well, there are some things I recall and some things I don't.
So my question is, are you having trouble with both or just the end of May?
I'd say my whole life is like that, so both.
So you're saying that you're having trouble remembering everything or events throughout your life. Is that what you're saying?
Some things, not everything.
And sometimes you know what you can remember very well, and sometimes you can't. Is that what you're saying?
You mean can't at all or can't remember well?
Can't remember. Both well or at all?
Yeah,
You tell me.
all of the above.
And so at the end of May then, you're saying that you really don't remember whether or not you made a telephone call to Mr. Brewer. Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember specifically, but I know I called him at one point.
All right. And you did call him because you wanted to talk to him about some gas cans, right?
That wasn't the purpose of the call.
Well, that was what was discussed during that call, correct?
I think so, yes.
You're saying you think so? Yes, correct? That's
Yes.
what you're saying. And so one of the things that you told him in discussing these gas cans was that you were going to take a trip, right?
Yes,
And that the purpose for the gas cans was that you could put gas in them, right?
yes,
And the other thing that you told him was that the trip that you were going to make was going to be to Mesa, Arizona, right?
no,
You were here when he testified, correct?
yes,
And he's somebody that you've had a long-term relationship with, correct?
yes, about 4 years.
Pardon?
About 4 years we were in a relationship.
Right? And then even after that, you have had, if not a close friendship, you've had a friendship after the two of you split, correct?
It was more distant, but it was still a friendship.
Sure. And in fact, you felt comfortable. You still remembered his number, right? Telephone number, right?
Yes.
And you felt comfortable enough to ask him for a favor, right?
Certain favors, yes.
Well, that particular favor, you felt comfortable in asking him for that, right?
Which one? The gas cans?
Well, which other favor are we talking about? Are there more than one favor here that we've talked about?
I want to know what you're talking about.
No, I'm asking you. Do you remember that we started talking about gas cans? Do you remember that?
Yes.
That we've talked of nothing else other than gas cans so far. Is there anything else that you believe that we've talked about?
I wasn't sure, that's why I asked.
Ma'am, is there anything else that we have talked about?
I'm not sure, that's why I asked.
I'm asking you, is there anything else that has been posed to you other than this gas can issue involving Mr. Brewer?
Yes.
Objection, ask and answer badgering.
Sustained.
Now, you have this conversation with him involving the gas cans. It is more than one conversation, isn't it?
I don't remember.
And there could be more than one conversation. It's what you're telling us, right?
Yes.
And are you saying you did not tell him that you were going to go to Mesa when you spoke to him?
That's right. I told him after.
I'm asking you, the question is this: isn't it true that before you went on the trip, you told him you were going to Mesa?
No, that is not true.
All right. Isn't it true that as part of one or another conversation that you had, you told him that you were going to go to Arizona to visit some friends?
No, I said Utah.
You didn't. I'm asking you whether or not it's true that you told him that you were going to Mesa to visit some friends before you took the trip.
No, I said Utah.
I'm not asking you what you said, am I?
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, I think you are.
You're thinking. My question to you is asking you what you told them. Is that what you think it is? Whether or not you told them that you were going to go to Utah? Do you think that that's what the question was?
No.
The question was, isn't it true, ma'am, that you discussed with Mr. Brewer before the trip that you took that you needed the gas cans to go and visit friends in Mesa, Arizona? What is your answer to that?
My answer is no, I told him Utah.
And I'm asking you whether or not you think I'm asking you what you told him. Am I asking you what you told him?
That's kind of my interpretation of it. It's a yes or no question.
It is a yes or no question, isn't it?
And I answered no 3 times, yes.
And you also added something 3 times, didn't you?
Yes, the truth.
Am I asking you whether you're telling the truth?
You have asked me that.
Am I asking you right now if you're telling the truth?
I don't know, are you?
Well, have you heard that question prior to you saying that?
Yes.
You heard that question immediately before I'm telling the truth. The prosecutor asking you if you were telling the truth, you heard the prosecutor say that.
Not immediately.
Pardon?
Not immediately.
So the answer is yes or no. Did you hear the question immediately before you gave the answer that you were telling the truth?
No, not immediately.
So you did have these conversations with Mr. Brewer, and you decided to get the gas cans. Why don't you just go and buy some gas cans?
They were expensive.
And when you say they were expensive, how much is a gas can?
I don't remember, but it wasn't in my budget for my travels.
And you wanted 2 of them, right?
I don't know, I guess whatever he had.
So if you would have had 6, you would have taken 6?
No, they wouldn't have fit.
And these gas cans, when you picked them up, where did you put them?
In the trunk.
In the back?
Yes.
So you rented this car, and this car had some floor mats, correct?
No, it did not.
So then you get into this car, and you pick it up, you go back to sleep, right?
Yes, back at my brother's house.
I didn't ask you where, did I?
No.
I asked you if you went back to sleep, right?
Yes.
So you went back to sleep, and at some point, you then started to go on your trip for reals, right?
Okay, yeah.
All right, and about what time was that?
I want to say late morning, but I'm not too sure.
And you then drove south till you got to the Monterey, California area, correct?
I stopped again and slept, and then continued driving south.
What did you say?
I stopped again and slept, and then I continued driving south.
Did anybody ask you whether or not you slept?
Well, you just asked me.
I asked you whether or not you slept. Is that what my question was?
Yes, you asked if I went to sleep.
No, I asked you, when you started your trip, did you make it to Monterey, California? Do you remember me asking you that?
I remember you asking something like that, but not worded that way.
When you say something like that, again, it seems that you have a problem with your memory. Do you have a problem with your memory today?
Not in this particular case.
Okay, so after you woke up, after sleeping at your sister's house, did you begin your trip?
Yes.
And did you eventually make it to the Monterey, California area?
Yes.
And what time did you get there?
It was very, very late. I think it was even the 3rd in the morning because we had stopped in Santa Cruz first.
So you got there on the 3rd, you believe, but in any event, it was late, correct?
Yeah, it was past midnight, I think, by the time we got to Monterey.
And so in terms of miles, how many miles are we talking about?
From where to where?
from the place that you left your sister to Monterey, wherever it is that you went, and you arrived around midnight or after, or in the early morning hours of June 3rd?
Well, I'm not particularly sure. I'd say somewhere in the ballpark of 500 miles.
And so,
I know more by hours, not miles.
okay, how many hours then?
From Redding to Santa Cruz, it was approximately 6.5 to 7 hours.
And in Santa Cruz, did you meet anybody?
Yes,
And that's where you met Mr. McCartney, correct?
yes, and his roommate.
And did I ask you again if you met his roommate?
You asked if I met anybody.
No, I asked you if you met Mr. McCartney. Do you remember that question?
Yes, and I answered yes.
And so you met Mr. McCartney, and you spent the night at a place where he was living, right?
Yes.
And what time did you get up the next morning?
I don't remember, but it would have been in the morning.
I understand it was the morning. Would it have been really early, or would it not be so early in the morning?
It would have been before Jack had to go to school, so whatever time that was, it couldn't have been too late.
What time did Jack have to go to school?
I don't remember.
And so, did you have plans already to meet up with Mr. McCartney, or is it a situation where you got on the phone on the road, called him up, and said, hey, I'm coming down there, can we meet?
It was definitely beforehand because I was going to crash there.
So, when did you speak to him beforehand? Was it a week or so before? Was it days before you left? What was it?
I don't know. We spoke here and there. I don't know.
All right, and did Mr. McCartney go with you the next morning to meet with Mr. Brewer?
No.
So you did go over to Mr. Brewer's house, and one of the reasons that you went over was to talk to or see Jack, the son, right?
That was one of the reasons.
And you also had breakfast there, correct?
Yes.
And you also checked your email there, correct?
I think it was my MySpace
Pardon?
email. Yeah, what was my MySpace account?
Well, when you say that you checked your MySpace account, is your email included in the MySpace account?
There is an email system, but not my main email.
I'm asking if you checked when you checked your MySpace account, did you check any email in the MySpace account?
I don't remember.
Did you check, you mentioned that you had another email system. Did you check that other email system?
I don't remember. Probably not. I think it was just MySpace.
And what was the purpose for checking that, the MySpace account?
Hadn't done it in a few days, so.
And so you check that, and then at some point, you get some gas cans, right?
Yes.
And when in this whole sequence of event do you get the gas cans?
Sometime while I was visiting with him. I don't remember how it happened.
Was it before or after Jack left for school?
I don't remember.
And what color were the gas cans?
They were red
And where did you put them?
in the trunk.
And that would be in the back, correct?
Yes.
Where was your luggage?
In the trunk.
Same place with the same area as the gas cans?
Yes.
And how much time do you spend there with Mr. Brewer?
I don't know. I think it was somewhere like a half hour, it felt like. I don't really remember.
And then you leave, right?
Yes.
But you come back again, right?
Yes.
To return a remote, right?
Right.
What kind of remote are you returning?
It was for either his TV or his DVD player, I think.
How is it that it found its way into your car?
I don't know. I think that it
Well,
was,
don't speculate. You don't know, right?
no, it was already with him. I drove away with it on accident. I don't know how I got it.
All right. And then after you returned it, you drove to Salinas, right?
Yes.
And in Salinas, you did a number of things, right?
Not really. I just did a few things.
Pardon?
I just did a few things.
Right. You did your nails, right?
Yes.
And you said it took quite a while, right?
I had to wait for a while. Yes.
In other words, the doing of the nails didn't take a long time. The fact that you probably didn't have an appointment is what took some time, right?
Yes. There are no appointments there.
And then you left Salinas and continued your trip, right? And this would be on the 3rd, right?
That's correct.
About what time was it?
It was afternoon, but I don't know what time.
You told us about the gas cans from Mr. Brewer, right?
That's right.
But you forgot to tell us something else, didn't you?
You haven't asked me yet.
Well, isn't it true that there was more than 2 gas cans involved in it, right?
Yes.
And you testified on direct examination involving the gas cans, didn't you?
Yes.
And you never testified about a 3rd gas can, did you?
No.
And this 3rd gas can, you actually bought it in Salinas, didn't you?
Yes.
And you bought it from Walmart, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And not only do you have 2 5-gallon gas cans, you have another gas can. How many? What's the capacity of this one?
It was the same size. No, I think it was, I don't know, it was the same size, I think.
You think it was, so now you have a capacity of 15 gallons, right?
At that moment, I did.
Well, you're saying like at that moment. Did the size of these gas cans change so that it would go from a 15-gallon capacity down to a lesser capacity?
Objection. Bathroom.
Ms. Sustain the objection.
With regard to, you keep saying that at that point you had that capacity. Was there something involving these gas cans that would not allow you to fill them up to their capacity later on?
Yes, there was.
And what is that?
I returned the gas can.
You returned it back, right?
Yes.
So that you now have a capacity of still 10 gallons, right?
Yes.
Maximum, right?
Yes.
So then why is it, ma'am, that when you go to the ARCO, you fill up with gas, you remember that?
Yes.
And then you go inside and exhibit number 237.012, do you see that there?
Yes.
That's a capacity of 10 gallons, right? Or approximately, it's 9.5494 gallons, right?
Yes.
And then 237.013, it's 2.77 gallons, right?
Where does it say that? Oh, yeah, I see that.
So you're saying that these gas cans then have a larger capacity now?
I don't know what the capacity was.
Well, you remember Mr. Brewer saying they were 5-gallon gas cans, right?
I don't know if he said that or not.
You were here when he testified, right?
I was physically here, yes. Sometimes I space out.
Pardon?
I was physically here, yes. Sometimes I space out.
And so you're saying that throughout the trial you may have spaced out and not paid attention to what's going on?
During other people's testimonies, sometimes my mind wanders.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
And you don't remember then specifically what Mr. Brewer may have said. Is that what you're saying?
I remember some things he said. Almost all.
But not everything.
Not every single thing.
Well, 237.011. Do you see that it says ARCO and it's in Pasadena?
Yes.
Do you see the address there?
Yes.
What's the address? Read it for me.
3706 East Foothill Boulevard.
And the city and state?
Pasadena, California, 92553.
And it does talk about a debit account. You see that?
Yes.
Talks about a date of June 3rd, 2008, right?
Yes.
And a time of 8:42 p.m., right?
Yes.
And then it talks about being at pump number 2. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then it talks about the amount of gallons that are involved, right?
Yes.
8.301 gallons. And there's the price there, right?
Yes.
That is for you filling up the car, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, you were there though, right?
Yes.
And this is first in the sequence at 8:42 p.m., right?
Yes.
And you don't know whether or not this is part of filling up the car with gas then?
I don't remember what order I filled
All
out.
right, well, you remember that we're talking about 2 5-gallon gas cans, right?
Yes.
5 plus 5 is 10, right?
That's right.
This is 8.301. Do you see that?
Yes.
So this is not the capacity, if you will, of the up to 10 gallons for those 2 gas cans, correct?
It has that capacity, so that's not correct. It's not the maximum capacity.
No, it isn't, right? So there's no reason to believe that this could be the gas cans. If you're going to take these gas cans, presumably you're going to fill them up to the top, right?
Objections, presuming something is not in evidence.
Restate your question.
Why? You were taking those gas cans for a reason, right?
Yes.
And that was to have extra gas, right?
Originally it was.
Yes
so
or
that
no? Was it to have extra gas available to you?
At one point, yes. At another point, no.
Well, and if you want to have extra gas available to you, don't you want to have the maximum amount?
I guess.
Well, no, you were driving. You're the one that asked to borrow these gas cans. If you have let's just say 10 gallons of space available, and you want to make sure that you have enough gas, wouldn't you fill it up to approximately 10 gallons?
Objection, what's the relevancy of this? It's 8.3 gallons.
I don't know.
Ma'am, what's going on is that Exhibit 237.001 is you filling up that Ford Focus with gas, isn't it?
I don't remember what order I filled up.
And this was at 8:42 p.m., right?
Yes.
And you went and you pumped your own gas, didn't you?
Yes.
And then and you paid with a debit card. Do you see that?
Yes.
You had a MasterCard back then, right?
I don't remember what it was, MasterCard or Visa.
But you paid for that with a credit card or Visa or MasterCard, whatever it was, right?
Yes.
With regard to the gas that you purchased inside, which is 237.012, you paid cash, right?
That's right.
And cash is harder to track in terms of sales than a credit transaction. Wouldn't you agree?
Not if you save the receipt.
Not if you save your receipt. What if you don't save your receipt, ma'am? Wouldn't you agree that a cash transaction is harder to keep track of than a credit transaction?
Yes, I would agree with that.
And in this case, you initially said, I want to pay $40, right?
Yes.
And then it's the amount of gallons that you got for that was 9.594 gallons, correct?
Yes.
And that was the $40, right?
Yes.
Do you see the time there?
That would be 10:53.
Well, how about 8:46:50? If you see the 20:46:50, wouldn't that be 8:46:50?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's correct.
And that is 4 minutes after the transaction and 237.001. Do you see that?
Yes. Wait, what was the other time? I'm sorry.
There's 8:42.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes.
8:46:50. Do you see that?
Yes. I was sorry. I was looking at the other time on the top.
Do you see that right there?
Yes.
It's 8:46:50, right?
Okay.
So that's 4 minutes after the transaction. That's the debit transaction, right?
Yes.
And then you have 237.013. It's the same ARCO, right?
Yes.
And this one is at what time?
This one is at. What time was it?
How about 8:53?
53. Yes.
And that's 5 minutes later than the transaction involving the approximately 10 gallons of gas, right?
Yes.
And during that time, that 5 minutes, that would allow you to go from the inside out to your car again, wouldn't it? 5
Yes.
minutes. It was that close, correct?
Yes.
And the time span between Exhibit 237.001, which is 8:42, to the next one, which is 8:46, which is 4 minutes, that would give you time to go back between the car and the register or inside the store, correct?
Yes.
And so now, we know that at that particular gas station, you spent $237.011, I'm sorry. It's $35 there, right?
Yes.
And 6 cents, but let's leave the cents aside. And 237.012, that's $40. So far you spent $75 in gas, right?
Yes.
And then if you add from 237.013, if you add 9, because we're rounding up, you're now talking $84 in gas that you spent, right?
I don't know. I'm not good at math, but okay.
Assuming the math is correct,
Assuming the math is correct.
it's between $80 and $84 in gas that you spent, correct?
Yes.
And so you've now driven all the way down there, and one of the reasons that you told us on direct examination that you wanted these gas cans was that gas was cheaper in Arizona and Utah. Do you remember telling us that on direct?
No, I said Nevada and Utah.
All right, gas is cheaper in Nevada and Utah, right?
Yes.
You weren't filling up in Nevada or Utah, were you?
No.
You were filling up in California, right?
Yes.
Where the gas is as expensive there as it is probably throughout the state, right?
No. And why
Or
were you
well,
asking?
it was expensive in California, isn't it?
More than Nevada and Utah, yes.
And so you had actually, and California is kind of a progressive state in the sense that it has gas stations almost everywhere, doesn't it?
Injection foundation, relevance.
Restate your question.
On your travels on that date, you went from the Monterey area down to Salinas. Any trouble seeing any gas stations there?
No.
From Salinas all the way down to Pasadena. Any problem seeing any gas stations there?
No.
So it seems that your fears about gas in California were not well founded then, right? There was gas in places that you were traveling in California, right?
I didn't have any fears in California of that, so no.
You had fears somewhere else, correct?
Yes.
Arizona, for example, right?
No.
Well, you did end up going through Arizona, right?
Yes, I did.
And so, presumably, is that where the fears were, in Arizona?
No, I'd driven that highway many times. I knew where the gas stations were there.
So you didn't really have a need for gas if you're going to drive through Arizona then, right?
No, that's right, yes.
Pardon?
That's right.
And you were telling us, though, that approximately every 150 to 170 miles, your car was running out of gas. Do you remember telling us that?
150 to 170 miles?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember saying that.
Well, do you remember that you said that you had problems with that your Ford Focus had problems with gas, that it was using too much gas on direct examination?
I remember running out quickly, yes.
Well, you told us that this car, the Ford Focus, was using an inordinate amount of gas, correct?
No, that wasn't my thought.
Well,
It ran out of gas quickly.
you told us that from Pasadena, then you filled up at Desert Center, right?
Yes.
That's approximately 170 miles down the road, right?
I don't know.
Well, you drove it.
It sounds right.
Injection foundation, she asked, man.
Sustain, ask another question.
And after that, you then said that you drove out to Buckeye and you filled up there, right?
Yes.
That's approximately another 170 miles, right?
Injection foundation.
Overruled.
I guess.
Well, you did drive that, though. You
Yes,
did
I
tell
did.
us that, right?
Yes.
And you told us that both of those times you filled up, right?
Yes.
And you filled that car up with 12 gallons of gas approximately every time, right?
Whatever it would have been, I filled up, I think.
Well, if you were running low, we've already seen the capacity, then it would be approximately 12 gallons, wouldn't it?
Injection
Yes.
foundation,
I guess.
she was on empty.
Sustained.
Ma'am, you said that you filled up in Winnemucca, right? And your car was low, ran out of gas, right?
It did not run out of gas. I was low.
Oh, so it didn't run out of gas, and yet you were able to put over 12 gallons worth of gas in Winnemucca, correct?
That's correct.
And so if you are running low on gas in Desert Center, that would mean that you would put approximately 12 gallons worth of gas, right?
Approximately.
And then from that point over to Buckeye, you said you put gas into the car again, right?
Yes, I did.
So that would mean that you would put another 12 gallons worth of gas in the car if it was running low, based on the previous computations.
overruled. You may answer.
If you base it on those computations, but I stopped in Buckeye because the Shell station there always had cheap gas.
I'm not asking you whether or not it had cheap gas, right? Am I?
No.
Do you remember that on direct examination, the way you processed this was that, oh, this car used an inordinate or a lot of gas. Do you remember telling us that portion?
Yes.
And that as a consequence of that, do you remember telling us that you stopped at Desert Center, right? And
Yes,
put gas in it.
I did.
And then you also said, and because of this problem that it was running low on gas, you also stopped in Buckeye, right? You told us that,
Yes,
right?
I did.
So if this car is running low on gas, that means that it's close to empty, right?
Yes.
And so that would mean that if it's close to empty, it would be around 12 gallons that you put at Desert Center inside the car tank, right?
Approximately.
Approximately. And then it would be another 12 gallons worth of gas there at Buckeye, right?
Presumably, yes.
Well, given the computations that we have going. And then you made your way over to Mesa, right?
Yes, I did.
And how long did it take you to get to Mesa?
That hour of the morning, not long because there was no traffic.
And how much gas did you use?
I don't know.
And all the while you have these gas cans full of gas, right?
Yes, I did.
And because you filled up in Pasadena, correct?
Yes.
And where did you put these gas cans?
They were in my trunk.
And again, in the back part of the trunk?
Yes.
And you maintain that this third gas can, that you did not have a third gas can then, right?
No, not at that time.
When you keep saying that at that time, I'm asking after Salinas, you did not have that gas can, right?
That's correct.
Take a look at 237.008. Do you see that? Do you see the receipt?
Yes.
And at the very bottom it says 5G. That actually means 5 gallons, right?
Yes.
Carocarb is the type of gas can, correct?
Yes.
And it's $12.96, right?
Yes.
Ma'am, at the time that you bought it, one of the things that you were telling us was that you were very financially strapped, for lack of a better phrase, right?
That's right.
So if you want to save on gas, which is on the price of gas, which is what you say is your ultimate goal, right?
At the time that I wanted gas cans, that was my ultimate goal.
Right. So that was your ultimate goal at the time that you talked to Mr. Brewer, right?
That's correct.
So if you want to save on gas, why is it then that you're willing to pay $13 for a gas can, which would increase, if you will, the price of travel
Well,
by $13?
that wasn't a calculation that I made when I bought it. That's why I returned it.
Do you have the receipt that you took it back?
I didn't get a receipt.
So Walmart did not give you any documentation whatsoever when you took that gas can back.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm asking you just whether, I just want to be as clear as we can about this. You believe that when you took that gas can back, Walmart did not give you any written document evidencing that or showing that?
I don't recall having to fill anything out or any documents regarding that, no.
You weren't even given a printout or anything at all, right?
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I don't remember.
And you would agree, though, that if you bought the gas can and it was approximately $13, it would not make any financial sense if you were looking to save for gas, correct?
I do agree with that.
And the other thing is, if you're looking to save for gas and you're trying to do this, wouldn't it have made more sense to have filled up in Pasadena, then driven up to Nevada, if that's where you were going, and once you get to Nevada, fill up the gas cans? Wouldn't it have made more sense then?
Yes, it would have if that was my goal.
Well, your goal at that time when you were filling up was to travel up to Utah. Didn't you tell us that?
Yes.
So you didn't do that, though, right?
I did not end up going directly to Utah.
I'm not saying whether or not you ended up going directly to Utah. At the time that you filled up these cans, your plans were to go to Utah, weren't they?
Yes.
Because of the time on there, correct?
Yes,
Previously, you had told us that you didn't speak to Mr. Alexander until after that, right?
that's right.
In fact, you were at getting some coffee or something, right? At Starbucks, something like that, or some drink at Starbucks, correct?
Yeah, strawberry drink.
Right, at Starbucks, right?
Yes.
And so, if you are going to go from Pasadena to Nevada, you can make it on a tank of gas, can't you? Overall.
I've never driven that freeway, so, I mean, this is the USA, so I would guess yes, but I've never driven that road, especially not at night. So.
You didn't think that perhaps all that way from Pasadena to Las Vegas there wouldn't be a gas station? Did you believe that that was the case?
No, I didn't believe that was the case.
So if you really are trying to save on gas, you would have continued driving through California and filling up in California until you got to Nevada. And then you would have been able to purchase the cheaper gas, right?
That was a long question. I'm sorry, will you say it again?
Well, it would have made more financial sense for you to keep driving from Pasadena northbound, northeastbound, until you got closer to the border, right?
That's right.
And then when you got to Nevada, then it would have made more sense to fill the gas cans, right?
Financially, yes.
And that was your goal, correct?
At the time I got the gas cans, that was my goal.
Your goal changed, apparently, is what you're saying, right?
I still wanted to save gas, but my priority changed.
Okay, and so with regard to exhibit number 237.012, this is the one that's approximately 10 gallons. And then 237.013, it's approximately 2.7 gallons. You see that?
Yes.
You were the person that actually put the gas into the gas cans, right?
That's right.
And you know that one of the gas cans was 5 gallons, right?
Yes.
The other was 5 gallons, right?
Well, I believe it was because that's what Daryl said.
They were the same size, weren't they?
They were the same size.
And so if that's the capacity, the most that each can carry is about 10 gallons, right?
Yes, I guess.
Yet you were able to put 10 gallons plus 2.774 gallons in containers, weren't you?
No, I think the other one, the 10-gallon, was probably the car.
Was what?
Probably the car, I would guess.
What did you, tard?
Car.
So you're saying that this one right here, 237.012, went to the car.
That's very possible.
And you're saying that this one right here, 237.001, went into the gas can. Is that what you're saying?
That sounds right.
Okay. Why are you breaking it up then, this purchase? If you're going to put 10 gallons in the gas can, what you're saying is you went to the pump, went to the gas cans, and you put 8.3 gallons worth of gas in it, right?
Yes.
Then you made that debit transaction, right?
Yes.
And then you put gas in the car, according to you, right
Yes.
here,
Mm-hmm.
at 8:46, right?
Right.
You went inside to do that, right?
I think so, yes.
Well, no, it says initial payment. You can't pay at the pump, right?
Sometimes you can, but I don't
Well,
know
you
about
think
a
you can pay at the
prepayment.
pump there, right?
If I remember correctly, I don't know about ARCO, so, I mean, I prepaid is what I know.
You did prepay, and you prepaid inside, didn't you?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Well, ma'am, let's just get to the bottom of this. You say that you don't know. It's 237.012. Do you see right here?
Oh, yes, clear.
Well, let me just ask the question before we